On the 16th. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. We get a roll call, please.
Brock Pierce,
Present.
Marilyn Kramer here, and David Jackson
Here.
We're all here.
All right.
Right there? Yep.
Pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
We have the public comment. Oh, wait, approval of the agenda. So everybody have to approve. There we go. Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we have any public comment?
We have none.
There was submitted written public comment that we provided to you at your desk and also online. That's it right there.
This is it?
Yep,
Okay.
we got that this morning.
Okay. Should we take a minute to read it?
Sure, if you want to.
Can we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
One more public comment, we'll close that. Approval of the minutes, move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right. Business of the day. Update regarding planning efforts at Rose Parks Indian Colony from Candace Stovall. That's like see planning director.
Welcome, Candace. Hey, maybe come sit here with us so you'll be sort of on camera and if you want me to hold those exhibits, I'm happy to do it.
Wait, but I thought, yes.
Oh, I'll let you do it. You're gonna pull it up. We've also got it. Thanks to Candace, we printed out a bunch of copies for us.
This one, right?
There we go.
Great, thank you.
Let me share it to Zoom.
Here we go. Thank you, Carla. Presentation.
If I can hide.
That's why bottom right,
Bottom right.
2 arrows.
Oh, got it. Is this-
Third far bottom right.
I can't see it.
Right there. Thanks. All right, you got the floor,
Thank
Candace.
you. Morning. Pleasure to be here. What I'd like to do is show you on the next page.
Next slide. We'll just hit enter. Usually, this is not the way it works.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Operate from the TV. We had an issue.
Okay, there we go. That's it.
So what I'd like to do, Candace Stoll, Planning Community Development Director, Reno Sparks Indian Colony. I'd like to just give a quick overview, orientation to the geography and current location of Reno Sparks Indian Colony, discuss some of the challenges that we have, talk a little bit about our new comprehensive plan, specifically the land use element, and then talk about some of our current redevelopment projects, mostly down here in the Reno area.
Next one.
So some of you may know we've been around for quite a while. We were established in 1917 with a purchase by the federal government of 20 acres between what's now East Second and Mill Street. So that was the first part, and then a few years later, the federal government purchased an additional 8 acres. So the original colony was established with 28 acres, which is again the property that was originally between East Second and Mill Street, and then we picked up additional 8 acres north of East Second, where we call our Colony Road properties. Today, we've expanded. We really started expanding after 1970. There really hadn't been any purchases of land until starting in the 1970s. So today, we have 15,611 acres. Most of that is in Holy Valley, unincorporated Washoe County. But we have about 155 acres that's in Reno, Sparks, Verdi. So we have land everywhere. But obviously the bulk of it is up in Hungry Valley, unincorporated Washoe County. Today we have 1,379 enrolled members. We started with probably less than 100 members back in 1917. So because we're so spread out, we interface with many jurisdictions, many regional planning bodies, Truckee Meadow Flood Management, Carson Truckee Water Conservancy District, because of where the location of all the different Reno Sparks Indian Colony land areas. So I don't know how well you can see this, but these are maps that are in our new comprehensive plan. This shows the original boundary back in 1917, the orange, and then yellow is what we picked up in 1926. It's really hard to see on this, but if you can kind of see the light or blue boundary, those are the additional properties that we picked up after 1926. So if you start north of East Second, start on the west side, you can see the kind of L shape, that's our health center along the Truckee River. And moving east, we picked up another parcel from the Truckee Meadows Flood Management Authority. Continuing east, we have all the Sunshine Lane parcels, and I'll get into that more in a second. Going to the other side of I-580, thank you. We have our Walmart property, and then adjacent to Walmart is what we call our 6-acre, which is the undeveloped property. That's where the State Restitution Center used to be. So just in this area, we have picked up a lot of properties since 1926. If you look at the next slide, this shows in blue the original Hungry Valley property that we picked up in 1986. And as you may know, we've been able to pick up some of these larger properties due to public lands disposal acts that went through Congress. Some of it we have picked up just by purchasing property, like anybody else can purchase property. But these large assemblages of land were picked up through disposal legislation. So the blue was 1986. That's where we started our original residential development. The yellow is what we were able to acquire thanks to the Native Nevada Nations Land Act in 2016. So this allowed us to pick up over 13,000 acres from Congress, largely due to Congressman Amodei. And that also allowed Pyramid Lake, as well as I think maybe Washoe, certainly Pyramid Lake also picked up additional lands because of that 2016 Lands Disposal Act. So that was huge. It was a great benefit to Reno Sparks Indian Colony. And on the flip side, there are also challenges that have come because of acquiring such a large, huge 13,000 plus acres of land. So some of the challenges we have today, and I might want to use the boards behind me. We have incompatible land uses next to the colony homes. And
Which one?
let me go through this and then I'll pick it up.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
We have incompatible land uses next to our residential development in Reno. And part of that is because when we started as a colony / reservation, it was ag land everywhere. We were near Reno, we were near Sparks, but it was all ag land, ditches everywhere. As time went on, Washoe County, City of Reno expanded, and the area around us was highways, industrial parcels. So even today, we're totally surrounded by basically industrial parcels, which is a problem when you have residential development. So that mismatch has been a constant issue for us. And of course, one of the best ways to deal with incompatible land uses, you go out and purchase them. And we have done some of that. But we still have to deal with some incompatible zoning for whether it's Reno, family Reno, or Sparks, or Washoe County. So we have to deal with that. That's a constant day-to-day issue. The other big problem, or opportunity is the redevelopment of parcels along the Truckee River. We have over time, and I pointed to the health center, we have over time picked up more and more property along the Truckee River, which is great for us because we want to go back to the Truckee River. We want to have more of a footprint along the Truckee River. But the challenge, flip side, has been that we've had to do extensive remediation parcels along the Truckee River because the history of development along Truckee River, especially in this area east of downtown, has been industrial. So you've had a lot of industrial uses, auto, car, construction, and when we've gone in and purchased these parcels, we've had to do extensive remediation. A lot of that helped out with NDTs, with brownfield grants, but there's been a lot of work to redevelop those parcels. Flipping up north for second to access management in Hungry Valley, as I mentioned, we have more than, right now over 15,000 acres, including the original 1986 acquisition. The access management issues are huge. When the legislation went through in 2016 to Congress, there was an understanding that we would not sort of close off all of our Hungry Valley community. We would still allow the public to come in through designated areas. And I think that one of the issues has been that many people were used to seeing that as BLM land. When we expanded, some people didn't understand that that was no longer BLM. Technically, it's federal government. Step down, it's BIA. So BLM was totally out of the picture, but people thought they could still come in any of the entrances, the trails that had historically been there. So we try to inform everybody. Our GIS specialist has worked to remove any of the trails that are on the Trails apps. We've been working with DCNR, with their trails planner there at the state, to make sure people understand that you're welcome to come in designated areas north-south, which is also an evacuation route. So if you want to come and you want to go through Hungry Valley and go up to Moon Rocks, that's fine, but you can't just come in anywhere you want to, because not only are those not paved roads, if you look at the degradation that's happened with all the trails and the OHV use that goes on in Hungry Valley, you'd be shocked. It's bad. And people even who are in Washoe County to the west, they have to deal with it as well. So again, that's a significant issue for us. Public lands disposal, our favorite subject. So we've been very involved for a very long time. This is when it was still called Washoe County Landfill, and now it's the Truckee Meadows Public Lands Management. We've been very involved over the last couple of years with City Rose and staff on that legislation, like many of you have been. And as we understand it, it's been reintroduced. There's a hearing in Congress, a subcommittee for Masco on February 12th. So we hope that maybe there's an opportunity this year that perhaps it will actually move forward. But to Reno Sparks Indian Colony, the benefit is that we would be able to basically acquire some additional buffer land to the south of our Hungry Valley community. The other thing that's a big deal in this proposed Truckee Meadows Public Lands Management Act is that it allows the Paras to become a national conservation area, which is significant. Right now, the Paras to the east of Sparks is an area of critical environmental concern. This has been designated by BLM for years. When BLM tried to do the resource management plan update in 2012, they were also proposing to expand the boundary because there are sensitive cultural resources all through that area. I mean, it's probably one of the most significant close-in areas for cultural resources in the region. The Truckee Meadows Public Lands Management Bill was designated as a national conservation area, which is more restrictive, prevents any future easements for transportation or energy corridors going through that area. And that would be one of the greatest benefits, not only for us, but there are also national conservation areas that are proposed in that legislation. So fingers crossed. The other thing that we've been doing, and this gets into the land use element, is as these big regional land use issues move forward, we've had to negotiate, cooperate, agree to some memorandums of agreement with our jurisdictional partners to make sure we don't have any conflicts as some of these big regional land use issues go forward, and I'll mention some of them specifically. So looking more at this, going south again to the Truckee River restoration and redevelopment. Over time, we now have 38 acres along the Truckee River. Again, we have the health center, but we also picked up the lot just to the west of our health center on the other side of Turo Street. So we now have 38 acres from basically John Champion Park east, Walmart, and then south to our 6 acre all the way down to East 2nd Street / Monday. As I mentioned, we've had to do a lot of remediation and redevelopment of all the industrial parcels along the Truckee River. And as we've been able to do that, we have developed signature projects. So that includes our private health center, which opened up in 2008, our Three Nations Plaza Walmart, which opened up shortly after there, and our health center is not only serving Reno Sparks Indian Colony members, it has a very large service area to serve other Native Americans and urban Indians in that service area, and that's a huge service area. So that's been a tremendous benefit. The Walmart, Three Nations Plaza Walmart took a lot. It required moving the remediation, the state restitution, not remediation, the state restitution center over to the new location, which you may not realize, at 2nd and 50. It involved building the flood wall and flood levee because of the flooding that always happened in that location. It involved constructing the Truckee River Path to help. That was our, relationship not only with Walmart, but obviously Truckee River Flood Management. So huge cooperation, Army Corps, everybody that gets involved when you're doing anything along the Truckee River. So I think, I can't remember the numbers now, several $1 million that went into just getting the land ready for Walmart. Since Walmart, we've had a lot of planning efforts. Obviously, One Truckee River is huge. The establishment of that nonprofit to help coordinate all the activities on the Truckee River. The Truckee River Vision Plan that the city and Washoe County did a few years ago, that was completed last year. And now the other big planning effort that's going on, thanks to RTC, is the Truckee River Path Implementation Plan. So again, you're very involved in this, most specifically because we've been working since 2014 on the Truckee River Shared Use Path design. I think at this time I probably need to show the boards. So these are the future land uses from our adopted comprehensive plan. We have the existing Truckee River path on the Walmart property. And people don't even realize it's there because if you drive into Walmart, you can even see the river. You don't even know the river's behind the property. So obviously we need more signage. We need better maintenance along here, which has been a struggle. Our tribal police always patrol this area. But again, many people don't even realize the path is there. It's a 10-foot wide path that basically allows you to come down here. You can cross 2nd Street, then you can go on to the GSR path. What's interesting is the path is sought along with Grand Sierra Resort. That was dedicated to the city of Reno back in 1981. So that's probably one of the first examples where the city was going out and acquiring the green belt along the Truckee River. So right now we have that, but our hope is to extend the Truckee River to what we call the shared use path. Go underneath the 580, go underneath Kitsky, connect to the L-shaped parcel that we picked up from Truckee, actually, and connect to our health center, and then eventually connect to John Champion Park. So we have funding from the Tribal Council to finish the design for the path. And once that design is done, we hope to go forward with funding to construct the path. That's a great opportunity. And again, just mentioning what I mentioned before, here's our residential homes here, our residential homes here. We have I-580, the SBX project. Fortunately, part of the mitigation was all the artwork that you see at the interchanges. But all of these that are not colored, that are parcel. This is all industrial development here. And then this looks great now because we're putting the future land uses over it, but this was all industrial. And we, over the past couple of years, as we bought all these properties in 2021, we have slowly been able to have the other tenants move out. So you used to have Oxborough. We purchased this in 1994. This was Patrick's Construction. This was Owens Wood. All those tenants have now left those properties. It allows us to start going in. 6 acres, that's been basically vacant since we moved out the restitution center, and the restitution center is now here. So our big challenge now is to start developing that property. And what else? This is, and there's a site plan, this is going to be the location of our new multipurpose justice center. 3.69 acres is in trust. And so that will be the location for human services, our tribal court, and our tribal police. Again, it's a multi-purpose. It's supposed to have basically a campus feel. It's not meant to be sort of a law enforcement only. It's meant to be sort of an integrated campus for those 3 departments. And we're getting started on that. We're very excited. We got a grant from the Justice Department, and we're also putting a lot of general fund money. So this is just the future land use map for Hungry Valley. Orientation, obviously, just as you're coming in from Spanish Springs High School, and you're going up Eagle Canyon Road. We have our existing residential development here. We're now constructing a new subdivision just north of there, 25 lots for new single-family homes. Our community center is here, our powwow grounds here, our sewer ponds, cemetery, and what we hope to do is we basically did all the analysis of where potentially some ag uses. This is the best land that could be used for agricultural purposes, whether that's alfalfa, whether that's, who knows. We're doing a lot of studies now on the water and soil quality to see what kind of crops could possibly grow in that area. We're really not showing any intense commercial, no industrial. We're not proposing anything like that at this time. So, comprehensive plan. The Tribal Council adopted a brand new comprehensive plan for the Sparks Indian Colony in 2025, so May of 2025, so we're almost at the year-end mark. We did have a comprehensive plan, but it was from 2000. And we wanted to go back to the community, go back to our elected officials and say, it's time for a brand new comprehensive plan. Lots has changed, as hopefully I can explain to you. Lots has changed, and we really want to be more comprehensive. The comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2000 was really sort of focused on land use. We wanted to really move forward, look at housing, public safety, conservation, cultural resources, obviously, and try to look at all these different things that we think needed to be addressed in a comprehensive plan. So Tribal Council adopted that in May of 2025, and I just want to point to the land use element goals, because the first goal, increase involvement in regional and local land use planning to advocate for protection of colony lands and to protect cultural resources in Washoe County. So that's what we're saying up front. Regional planning, we want to be involved, we want to help, we want to facilitate, but we want to be involved because we're impacted really throughout the region. We're not just down in Reno anymore, we're everywhere. We want to continue to participate and support regional planning initiatives. We wanted to monitor and provide feedback to any proposals near us that may create conflicts with the comprehensive plan. We obviously need, as staff, to provide updates to our tribal council, and we want to increase involvement in the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency to provide input and collaborate on regional planning efforts. And I want to thank Jeremy because we have had many meetings over the last couple of years dealing with the natural resources plan, but other opportunities that have come forward. And we need to express any concerns we have, and we also need to hear from others if there are concerns. It's critical, and we can't operate in a silo. We are very dependent on having those relationships with our jurisdiction and any kind of regional planning bodies and nonprofits in the region. It's absolutely critical. So we greatly appreciate the working relationship we have with Turkey Meadows Regional Planning. It's wonderful, and we know it will continue as long as you're there.
Thanks, Kim.
So what are our current redevelopment projects? I mentioned the new Justice Center. The other thing you may have noticed is we used to have a smoke shop on corner of Mill and Golden. Well, it's demolished now. It's no longer. Smoke Shop 2 is gone. It's history. So the opportunity is what's going to happen at that corner. All the Mill Street capacity and safety project construction is underway. There's going to be a brand new signal at the intersection of Golden, brand new traffic signal intersection of Golden and Mill, which is great for us. I think it's going to be great for everybody because it makes it a safer intersection. One of the streets on the south side of Mill has been closed down now. I think it's Redwood. So you're going to have a full four-way intersection at Golden and Mill, which is huge. And RTC started construction of that project, and we're looking forward to that. The challenge is going to be what's going to make sense on that corner. We did a huge community survey back in 2022 before we started the comprehensive plan, and many of the community members said Dutch Brothers, laundromat, coffee oriented, something that's a neighborhood commercial kind of activity. So we are looking at several proposals, possibly a new coffee shop at that location. We would not have access to Mill Street. The access would have to come into Golden. So we hope that maybe in the next couple of months, we will actually have a proposal to take to tribal council for development of that property. 6-acre site next to Walmart, I mentioned that. We need to move forward. We can't have that sit vacant for another 6 years. The maintenance issues and the transient population, we need to develop that property and start having some sales tax revenue come in. One thing I wanted to mention that you may not know is that when we actually went to the state, I think it was AB 299, for the legislation to move forward on Walmart, because it obviously included the state restitution center. One of the agreements was that out of the Walmart development, a portion of that sales tax every month is collected for the Washington County Schools District. And I think, if my memory's correct, that's about $300,000 to $400,000 a year that Reno Sparks Indian Colony gives to the Washington County School District for that sales tax agreement. I can't remember if it expires in another 20 years, but we are still providing that resource to the Washington County Schools. The last slide really just gives you a preliminary site plan of the Multipurpose Justice Center. You can see our homes just south of it. You've got I-580 to the east. You see Sunshine Lane coming around into the Justice Center. Loomis and Associates is doing the civil design for the site plan. We have not hired the modular construction companies yet. It actually opens up next Monday, but Loomis has already started on the site planning work for the property. Again, it's 3.69 acres. We do want the main entrance to come in as an extension of Quinsley instead of coming in Sunshine Lane. We hope that in the future, to the west of this property, again, we own everything north of the Colony Road homes, that we would be looking at some new multifamily in this area. That's what we're showing on our future land use map. But basically, a lot of this acreage, not only this facility at 2 Sunshine Lane, but a lot of the other lands in this area we plan to develop as community facilities. Not only are we right up against the Truckee River, we want to have access to the Truckee River shared use path, but we also want to look at maybe other government facilities, maybe a new cultural center in this area to really meet the needs of our community and some of the things that have been on the drawing board for many years. such as the cultural center. So again, I want to say thank you to Jeremy and staff. There's a lot of things going on, and I think our focus over the next year is going to be getting some of these projects off the ground. We've done the long-range planning. We still have to work on our long-range transportation plan, but we've done the long-range planning, and now we need to get these projects in the pipeline and constructed and funded. So again, our relationship with Reno, as far as Washington County regional planning, is outstanding, and we appreciate those. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thanks, Candace.
That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you. What do you need from us? Is there any-
And this is an issue not just for us, I think, and this, this came up at your last meeting, where we have conflicts along the borders. It's very easy to, we do our comprehensive plans and we say, this is what we think is needed to meet the future needs. But then we don't always do a good job of looking what's across the border. And we sort of kick that to the end down the road. And I think that's important to look at where those conflicts are along the borders. See if there's a cooperative plan and how can we resolve that. And I would just say, I used to work for Douglas County and worked closely with the Washer Tribe down there. And we knew that there were conflicts in some of the areas where, for example, Douglas County was showing low density residential, Washer Tribe was showing commercial uses. It was obvious. So what's the next step? Well, the next step is you're going to have to start meeting and figure out, do you have larger buffers? Do you look at lowering intensity or making it more compatible on either side of the border? So that's something just goes without saying, no matter which jurisdiction, tribal or non-tribal, to look at where those conflicts are. And in terms of priorities, no, that's at the back of the bus, so to speak. But it's a huge issue because if it's not addressed, then guess what? You have these things that are coming out of the woodworks, and everybody is upset, and nobody knows how to address it.
Fix everything. Fix everything. Buffer planning areas, I think, are extremely.
So I think that issue of where you've got those conflicts along the boundaries is huge. I will also say the regional transportation planning is something we're having some struggles with, because the issue of the Northeast connector and how that's going to connect to the trip. We have gone on record opposing the proposed Vista alignment, because that Vista alignment cuts right through the powerhouse. And we specifically worked in agreement with the Sparks to have an MOU to allow any transportation to come through the southern area. And so we agreed with that. Sparks agreed with it. It was a signed MOU. But that Vista corridor alignment is cutting right through the powerhouse. And Sparks Indian Colony is on the record strongly opposed to that. As we always knew that it would probably be coming through La Posada, north, and then down to Trip. We recognize that I-80 is not sufficient. It's a huge problem for the region to deal with all the traffic that goes out to Trip. But we will continue to oppose any transportation corridor that comes down off of Vista, Eagle Regional Park, and into. So we're on record for that. So that's one of our challenges going forward.
Anyone else have any questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was great, Candace. Thank you so much.
Take care.
All right, we're gonna move on to the day, the 6B. Discussion from the governing board. Jeremy, whenever you have time.
Okay, let me just get it pulled up here. Just want to show these bullets here. Okay, Thank you. So yeah, Jeremy Smith for the record, Director of Regional Planning. This item 6B is regarding feedback we received from the Regional Planning Governing Board during their February 12th meeting, where we took an item, thanks to some good advice from our legal counsel, to check in on just to make sure that we got their take on this effort we're engaged in here, the regional coordination, and find out what their thoughts are so that that can help guide us as we move forward. And so I just want to quickly go through these bullets I put in the staff report, and then you guys can ask me questions or tell me you agree or disagree. Hopefully you have a chance to watch the video, and if not, it is available on our YouTube channel. So I think that what came to the forefront for me was an emphasis on education for commissioners. And I think this really comes back to our statutory framework and what legal counsel says all the time, that we need to stay within our lane. I think there's a lot we can do in there, but we don't want to undermine our capacities by getting outside of our authority. And so we want to stay squarely in the authority, and there seemed to be emphasis on education around that. So I think that that's really good. And I think that dovetails well with our RPC training that we're engaged in creating right now. There was just this kind of reestablishment of the concept that the RPC is a technical advisory board and the RPGB is the elected leaders, final say at the top. I think also what came through is that, and I've heard this over the years many times, that we stay at the regional level and that the details, and I think with some of the conversations we're having, we're getting into the details really occur at the local level process. And there is kind of a reaction when there's an interpretation or perception by the leadership, that we're getting too handsy on what they do at the local level. So we just want to be cognizant of that and really fulfill our role, because then we add value. We don't want to replace and duplicate. We want to augment with regional value. We do currently have, and we have been building regional coordination mechanisms at the agency. And I think we've shown a clear evolution towards the positive. But of course, as we know, we're always committed to doing better. So we want to acknowledge that we are making progress, and they acknowledge that, but that also there's more to go. We heard this, and I think we've all seen this, that there's kind of a disconnect between the voices of the people that come out to the meetings and then what the decision makers are enabled to do, or how they operate, or whatever it is, or they are or aren't listening. I have a good sense that all the elected officials and you guys on the appointed boards are listening absolutely to the voice of the people. But I think what often comes to bear is that there are certain findings, there are certain things that you have to work within in terms of the decision making, and that may not comport exactly with the sentiments we're hearing from the people, even though those sentiments are valid. So I think how we can work towards bridging that gap would be good, but it definitely was acknowledged. And I think that recognize that this effort may be able to help us do some of that in some areas. I think I heard positivity, people that this is a well-intentioned board, and we don't know exactly what's going to come from it, and we should make sure that we see what can happen and continue down that positive route. And then also there was gratitude expressed to each and every one of you guys on this subcommittee, on the RPC, and all the boards you serve on for your time and effort towards this. That was expressed. And then I think another thing is that regional planning has, over the years, established this idea that we're a regional warehouse for information. A lot of that has to do with GIS information, but we're even more broad ranging than that with our natural resource stuff and our public infrastructure data as well. So there seemed to be an acknowledgement of that and a desire to have this entity, kind of stepping outside the regulatory lane into the information gathering and coalescence and delivery dissemination lane. So that even though maybe we don't have the authority to make any kind of decision about it, that doesn't mean we can't be an accurate and honest broker of information that can be trusted, which I think, if you look at our data center website, you can see that exact kind of thing happening right now. So those were the big points that I got from rewatching the video and also living through the meeting. And so with that, I'd happy to answer any questions, or we can kind of move on to the next one, whatever you guys want to do next.
think it was pretty clear.
Okay.
I think the direction from the governing board has been very clear on this. And I understand where they're coming from. I don't disagree with them. I think, yes, we as the technical committee or the technical advisory committee can probably do a better job of staying in our lane. And we have to remember people don't understand what we do and they don't understand the process. And maybe it's up to us when we're out in the community to educate, help that education effort go forward and say, you know, we have a very small staff at regional who is our overarching authority, but their scope is very narrow. If you have issues, you do have to take it back to the local jurisdiction where they have a little bit more authority to direct that type of planning. And it, you know, I mean, Washoe County's coming up with one. It's got one right now. Sparks is coming up with one. I mean, there is no lack of controversial planning that is going to go on in the next 18 months. No lack. So we have to be better about communicating the process to everybody. I saw some of the reports from the Sparks meeting that they had last week. And one of the leaders of that committee to save Wingfield said, we have to know what the process is. Don't jump to any conclusions until you know what the process is and understand what that process is. So maybe all of us in our various jurisdictions need to be aware and educate those, because the community is going to come out there. There's a lot of NIMBYs around here. Nobody wants anything in their backyard. We can't be a community that is closed down to growth. If we do that, we have there's no tax structure for us. There's nothing for us. There's no revenues. We can't build anything, and we can't move forward in doing those things. So we have to be cognizant of what they want, but at our own levels. This level, it's already, when it comes to us, it's it goes from a 6-lane highway to a 2-lane road. And we have to maintain that 2 lanes and not get out of where we're at. I mean, that's kind of how I see it.
Take off your local jurisdictional hat.
Yes,
Two
right.
very different hats.
They are very different, and the scope of what we do locally is very broad. I mean, we have more power locally than we do regionally. And I think that it was set up that way because regional can't come in and usurp what the local jurisdiction has already been doing. That's not, then why have the local jurisdiction? So you have to have, it's a balancing act and making sure that you're staying within what it was designed to do.
Completely agree. That goes with saying that we don't want to duplicate or
No.
we want to augment. You
We want to assist.
From a legal perspective, that's exactly what the legislature had in mind when they designed regional planning statutes. The reason regional planning even exists is because the 3 jurisdictions couldn't play together in the sandbox next time. And so Governor Raggio, Senator Raggio and Senator Townsend said, hey, you knuckleheads, we're going to make you do this. We're going to statutorily mandate. But when they were thinking about that, their mechanisms to create that regional coordination amongst the 3 jurisdictions was your master plans have to conform with our regional plan. That's the mechanism. And we're going to create a regional plan that does this. Then you guys have to conform. And by the way, if there are large projects, which we're going to statutorily define, and give the planning commission a little bit of leeway to define additional projects of regional significance, they also have to conform. And that's it. That's it. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's really where regional planning sits from a legislative perspective. That's what the legislature intended. And the fact is, despite there was lots of dust-ups, right, when the statutes were first enacted, and then in the early 2000s, lawsuits filed and resolutions made. And guess what the legislature has not done? Changed the statutes. And that is purposeful. In the law, that is a very purposeful declination to act, which means what we've been doing, what you guys have been doing, Regional County has been doing since 1989, they deem acceptable. We have said nothing to warrant a change. So that's the marching orders under our statutes. And I think, you see, if you looked over the history of the regional plans that have been adopted over time, you'll see an evolution of things. Some were negotiated and some were actually at this point in time, this regional plan in particular, I think is the first plan to be arrived at through a consensus working group approach. 2012 plan and the 2007, 2012 plan, and the 2012 plan wasn't updated until 2019, the first iteration of this. Those were negotiated. Many aspects of those plans were negotiated through litigation, which doesn't mean it was thoughtful and strategic or a regionally coordinated effort. This is the byproduct from my perspective of the regional plan. But I hope that helps. I kind of got background on how we got here and what the role is. And I agree with Marilyn's comments. Local jurisdictions and your role that you're sitting on that planning commission is much different than the regional role. Local cities and county governments have a defined authority. Right? So it's not just what the legislature said when they created that, or the statutes applicable to the cities and county governments. Is that there's implied authority.
I guess the only thing that I'll say is that this, the friction points seem to come up when you have jurisdiction lines that can be drawn in peculiar ways at times. So some of these projects, like I know Five Ridges was contentious years ago. I wasn't around for that, but it often happens when you have concerned citizens from one jurisdiction weighing in on a approval that is in another jurisdiction. So right, so this is why a regional perspective should be looked at. One of the things that I don't fully appreciate, but it's almost taking a step back and looking at how did those lines come to be that caused us to be in this place like the Stonegate, where we have a city of Reno parcel that is overwhelmingly adjacent to county land, and the folks that will come up and voice concerns are not from the city of Reno. That's just how some of those have played out. So what I don't understand entirely is the process by which that comes to be, where it's, oh, we've got a city of Reno parcel, because that's where I see the source of some of these frictions occurring. Okay, we have a city of Reno parcel surrounded by county land. How did we let that come to be? And I know that came from 2005, which I also was not around for, but I don't think any of us were around for, but just understanding that a little bit would be something that I'll take some time to invest in. Okay. Go for it.
Lots of parcels in this county where there's little islands that still belong to Reno or Sparks or Washoe County that abut the other jurisdictions. So the sphere of influence has not caught up, so to speak.
That's what this map one is.
Right.
In your plan, sphere of influence.
Yes, and we are the keepers of that sphere of influence. And there's a couple of things on that vein that it might be appropriate to move to the next item, because then we can talk about some solutions and things we've done. We're kind of there anyway. Would that be okay? Rob?
Yeah, let's just move to the next
Okay.
one officially.
Great.
Want us to move to accept the report?
Sure, if you want to.
Okay,
I
move
think.
to accept the report.
Second.
Okay,
It does make sense.
I put that there, but it's, I don't
Do we take action on this one or?
Do we need to?
I don't think you need
Okay,
to. No.
I withdraw that.
Thank you. Thank you for your consideration of the motion and then withdrawing. I appreciate you. Yeah.
Let's do it right. I don't want to be in trouble
No,
with
it's fine.
anybody.
We just, really, it's part of the record of that last item. It's on the YouTube channel, and I was just trying to summarize it basically. But where I'm excited to go is what are we going to do next? And I think that's what we've been talking about. How do we move forward in a positive way? And so just to kind of, quickly what this staff report I put together does is really three things. It talks about what we've been doing since the 2019 plan, which has been that transformative, consensus-oriented process. It took an additional 2 years. It was supposed to be a 2017 regional plan, but it ended up being 2019. My hair got really long. I was not cutting my hair until it was adopted. So but that's why it took that long, because we kept talking. And even when it seemed like we weren't going to make it, we just talked through it and we got everyone on board with what we were able to achieve. And it changed some things that had been arbitrarily set as a result of this settlement and sort of litigation approach. We were able to say, we can work together, we can create a rationale that we agree with. It can be based on criteria, and we can use that as part of the decision-making process, not like an arbitrary sort of, standard that came out of a lawsuit. So, because while that solved it in the moment, what it doesn't do is allow for a reaction to the changing conditions, changing ideas, changing land uses, whatever it might be. So now we have this criteria-based approach with the regional land designations. And we also are checking in consistently with infrastructure and services at the time of your decision point. That's crucial, because that is a big change that was not there before. And what that led to was these entitlements that often are referred to as paper lots that are out there that are bereft of significant infrastructure planning that is concrete, that can actually work, right? And so what we have said is, in addition to making the regional plan layers, the tiers are non-jurisdictional, even though they reflect the jurisdiction master plans, we're not portraying the jurisdictions. We're also saying, let's not approve things we don't know how we're going to serve them, right? We're also saying stuff like, at the very beginning of the case, let's weigh in and tell you what we think is going to be triggered by regional. So we've really added in quite a bit of attempts, right, to help bring this lane, the 2-lane road, and the process around it to bear in the right way as early in the process as possible. We doubled down on some of that work going forward with the 2024 update, where we focused on, basically we got as far as we could in that long drawn out 2019 redo consensus process. And we recognized that we still, to meet our statutory obligations, ought to be doing a better job summarizing capital improvements, and we ought to be doing a better job mapping and summarizing natural resources. And so that's what 2024's update was all about. It was about moving throughout, through COVID, through the years in between 19 to 24, building a natural resource plan, building a public infrastructure plan, and getting the data and having that applied to the policies. So now we have stronger natural resource policy built into the plan, a lot more access to data. We're doing more active work of linking infrastructure planning to growth, so that we're not just saying you must show us, we're saying we're going to get the data together and we're going to start showing you. So, it's always a feedback loop of how we build this consensus and then memorialize it in the regional plan. So that's all stuff we've been working. And finally, the tribal coordination policy, huge. And Candace was here today. I mean, that was spectacular. I thought that she saw this was happening, volunteered, wanted to come and share that information.
Well, I think
I'm excited.
Jeremy, I think that's just as big as anything else we have going on.
Yeah.
Because I've seen through the years that nobody cared what the tribal thought. Tribal was insignificant.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they're
That's
not
even-
insignificant.
Yeah, exactly.
They have just as much stake in this game as anybody else, because they're looking for the revenues for their population as well. And they're a special group. They're not like the rest of us. They're treated differently than everybody else. And so if we don't include them in the conversation and the plan, then we're going back hundreds of years, the way I look at
They're sovereign, and the fact that they want to be included is huge.
it. Right,
I say, look, check the box on regional coordination, try.
right.
But they're asking for cooperative planning, and we don't have cooperative
Yeah,
planning.
that's the term of art. Sorry. Cooperative planning is a term of art. It means something specifically. You do have to be careful with your terminology. Cooperative planning is a formal designation of an area on the TMSA map. And then the company body of policies that say this is what cooperative planning is.
Agreed.
I mean, that's what it is.
And when I've mentioned it to other staff that were around during this settlement area in the, when we're doing the 2000s, my understanding is that cooperative planning idea emerged from that process.
Absolutely.
Because in state law, we already had something called joint planning, which is very formal, both bodies. So if it was a joint plan between, say, City Sparks and Washoe County, there would be the establishment of a new plan for a specific area, which would need to be adopted by both elected bodies. And it would have its own designations. And then in order to facilitate land use changes within it, both bodies need to meet and decide.
So that called a joint
That's
corridor plan?
Well, it's called a
That
joint
was part
plan,
of the
but there
joint
was
plan.
called,
That
the
was
Reno
one,
State
yeah.
Joint Corridor Plan
Right.
was one of
And
them.
then it had gotten planned out basically.
That's right. And so, yeah, it was appropriate. When we talk about the lands bill, Candace brought it up. To me, that's a brand new swath of land that no one's really considered for the future. And obviously it's multi-jurisdictional, potential. That to me kind of prompts really significant conversations about should we establish a joint plan to make sure that we work together to dispose of and plan this brand new area that is kind of send it out of nowhere, right? Like that we know about, but it hasn't been part of the plan. The cooperative planning is, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe now it's still a policy in our regional plan, that's for sure. We don't have any mapped areas identified. However, it could be a mechanism that we choose to employ, and I think we have some leeway on how we want to employ it. We could kind of craft the policy along with it, because right now it's very thin. It's like 3 lines. You can establish cooperative planning areas, and that could be really good. But what do we do in there? And that's the part that I don't think we want to go back to what we were doing before, because I've heard that wasn't working. It was very cumbersome.
It's potentially a tool in your shed, okay? That has to be, it's not just slapping a designation on the map. There
Right.
has to be, what does it mean?
Yes.
What do we want the jurisdictions to do? What does it mean to be in? Maybe if it was agreed upon, this would all have to be kind of come through first, you guys would, from a process perspective. You really feel like this might be the thing that we think could be tracked. Then you take back to the planning commission as a whole. And then the planning commission after, and this is not a knee-jerk type of action, in my opinion, is we have to be very deliberate and strategic and thought out well with consensus amongst the regional partners. But say here, okay, here's where we think there might be areas for cooperative planning. Maybe it is, these, what we're talking about, these jurisdictional boundaries.
Islands.
Probably not every single shared boundary between unincorporated Washoe and city, or between the tribe and their neighboring jurisdiction. I don't know if you want to identify all of that, because that's never going to get adopted in my opinion. A very, very tough sell. But maybe there are certain areas that would be appropriate. And then what do you want them to do? What do you want people to do in the cooperative planning area? I think historically, if I recall correctly, and I think the last cooperative planning area was in the Steamboat.
Possibly our Spanish Springs, one of the two.
And we got rid of it. They got rid of it because
Yes.
they felt like it had
Served its purpose.
Served its purpose. Maybe it was Spanish Springs.
It was.
Because that was City of Sparks and unincorporated Washoe County, and trying to figure out how to plan that area cohesively. That's the thing. What is it that we want to do? Do we want to require submittal of comments and require responses from each local as far as a development proposal by the jurisdiction that has authority in that area? I don't know. Those are things to be determined. And then once Then the subcommittee can take thoughts to body as a whole, the regional planning commission as a whole. And at the end of the day, the regional planning commission is a recommender to the governing board as far as any policy changes or mapping, anything that in this plan. You guys make a recommendation, the governing board is the policy maker, changes to the stuff. That's your process piece. What got interjected is working group meetings with the 3 local jurisdictions on the staff level and other members.
Yeah, I think, well, I had 3 ideas for sort of process improvements that require no policy change at all that we can just get after. We're already working on our case dashboard, which is a GIS-enabled thing, which will allow everyone in the tribes, anyone, to go in and see all of our initial review memos, all of our active cases, all of our past cases, links to the staff reports, making it easy to get the info. So I think that is just helpful for a coordination, role in general. Another would be this idea that, during a regional plan update, every 5 years, the plan must be substantively addressed and updated per state law. We typically, about 1.5 years ahead of that, start having monthly or bi-monthly meetings of local jurisdiction planning staff. Sometimes the public works staff comes in, affected entity planning staff, and sometimes their engineers will come in. And we get that set up and going, and then that way we can work out at a staff level how we build that consensus on ideas and then bring it to the RPC for the vetting and then take it to the governing board for the final decision. Well, I think it would be, we don't want to have meetings to just have meetings for no apparent reason, but I feel like this rises to the level that it can become a very useful forum if we have quarterly meetings we've just changed it to the regional plan working group. And it will be that same cast of characters. We could turn up the intensity when we get towards one of those update times. But why not just have a consistent check-in? Because that will provide always, as long as people come to it, a way for folks to interact. And you see it all the time, like in a meeting like this, we're talking, it's like, oh, did you know about that thing over here? Oh, no, I didn't. And then all of a sudden the staff are talking and they're becoming informed through a process that they might not reach out independently, given that they're in the room together. They will. So that would be the idea behind that. We could do that, start that meeting.
That would be just the planners from the various jurisdictions getting together with regional planning and discussing what's coming. Yes?
Yeah, just every quarter at just a standing
I don't think
meeting.
that's such a bad idea. It's like, oh yeah, you know about this? Oh yeah, we knew about this.
Right.
I mean, it takes the animosity out of the room when it comes to us. Going,
Yeah.
well, we didn't talk about this.
Right. Well, it gives them an
And it
opportunity.
gives them an opportunity to talk about it, and then they can say, well, we have to go back and take a look at this. Take a deeper dive in it,
Exactly.
maybe. And it's, maybe not some, or maybe it doesn't rise to that occasion. It's like, oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, we're good with that.
Right.
But still have that brought to us when it gets there. When it gets to us, saying, yes, we've had this meeting, yes, they knew about it, yes, they talked about it. I mean, you would be the facilitators of that.
Absolutely.
And it's not a surprise to us that nobody talked to the other jurisdiction. I mean,
Right.
no, I didn't talk to them. I didn't need to talk to them. Well, maybe just saying, hey, did you know, goes a long way.
Well, exactly. And I think one thing we hear consistently from the local staff is that they are overwhelmed,
Absolutely.
and so that doesn't excuse any of us from having to do it, but so we can facilitate this by holding this meeting, and we can be like, oh, we gotta go. Regional said we gotta go, and then they come over and they get this window in.
And then that keeps us from being stuck in the middle going, now what do we do? Nobody knew about this on the other end? I mean, because they're not required. It's not a requirement, but it's a courtesy.
Yes.
Courtesy goes a long way when you're doing things like this.
Completely agree. Well, if you guys are, we can put that down as one of the recommended actions and bring it forward to the RPC in March 26th meeting. Do you agree as well with the mentioned the case tracking dashboard and also just reporting on enhanced GIS data coordination. It's sort of like we really are trying to fulfill our role as that regional data warehouse, and it takes constant check-ins with staff that aren't planners as well, but just at all the entities and jurisdictions things are always changing, but making sure that we're getting the data streams and delivering them back out to people as well, our products.
And make it known that and we, like I said, we need to educate not just the public, but we need to educate the entities as well to say, these things are out here for your use. We've done the heavy lift here from the information you've provided us, and we've put it in one place.
Right.
I'm sure they know, but use that information that we've put there. It's not just for looks.
Right. Thank you.
This isn't cosmetic
Yes.
here. This is a useful tool for everybody in the region to use.
Yeah.
And let's get so we educate them, they educate the public, and we also educate the public and say, hey, did you know this is out there?
Yep. I think that's it.
Seeing some from people's perspective, listening to public comments. Rightly or wrongly, they have elevated expectations of graduating.
Oh, yeah.
The idea of you want to educate them on the legal rules that everybody has to follow. So that their expectation is not here, but it should be like understanding what you do tend, and we have members of the public who are very savvy and understand how do you piece it together, how to tell your story within statutory bounds and plans. Always that continuing education from the public as far as what are the rules that regional planning commissioners, regional planning governing board members, and regional planning staff for that matter have to roll by and how to make it.
I think this was the point of the event I went to. It's been over a year now, but about in Spanish Springs with Washington County staff. Rob, you were there. You and I were there, and we spoke to the assembled host of public there, and that was our message. It was like, we have rules we have to follow, and that if you want to be effective in your comments and helping to steer the decision making, put it in the context of those rules, so that we can point to it and say, there you go. And I would say also part of our consensus building on this plan was to make it pretty soft. The rules at the local jurisdictions are a lot, I think, stricter and clearer. And our rules are a little more open and squishier to facilitate us working together and not being the regional police that say, thou shalt do exactly this. Because I think we know, especially from where we sit, we don't always have the right answer for the universal application. There's no panacea. Things evolve, projects are different, regional considerations are different. So we're trying to surf that line of enough specificity that we know what we're doing, but not so much that we preclude good ideas or that we think we've got everything handled.
It's not a one size fits all.
Exactly.
Never. That's exactly. Everything is fluid. It's always a working document. You can't draw the line in the sand and say, well, can't do that.
Right.
It's always a working document, and we have to be able to punt every once in a while and go, well, maybe this is something we should look at.
I think that's part of the education piece.
Right.
In addition to where we're at today, recognition that we've been other places, we probably will be in different zone in the
We
future,
evolve.
right? It's evolving.
It evolves every single day, every year. It's like technology. Technology evolves every day, every year. It doesn't matter. I mean, what you did last year isn't going to apply this year. So we need to be able to evolve as well. And we need to be able to go to the jurisdictions and say, hey, what do you think about this? Because it might be better at your level than at our level.
Yeah, and that's kind of embedded in some of this. We've been doing that on, say, the schools front or the energy data center front, and trying to learn, how it stratifies, what we should be doing and what locals should be doing, and what other entities should be doing. Well, I think we should talk more about that, but before we do that, I want to just quickly address this meeting. Having Candace come here today, I thought was really cool, and potentially this group, I don't know about the time constraint or any of those limitations we might have to face, but what is the appetite to continue this subcommittee? Obviously, we can continue to talk about this topic we're on, but as a venue for informational updates.
I think it's a good.
Is it time commitment too much every other month or
You know what,
something? Is that
I'm retired, I don't care.
okay?
So, I got all the time in the world, guys. I mean, there are certain days I work for my daughter-in-law, but you know what? I can work things out.
Would an evening meeting time be preferable, given you guys all the
Daytime
job?
for me.
Daytime's
Evenings
preferable,
are-
David?
Yeah, daytime's fine.
Daytime's fine.
This is my first meeting. How
Quarterly,
frequently has this?
I would say,
Has it been quarterly or?
This is the second meeting.
Every second month?
We formed it in January,
Okay.
had the kickoff, talked to the governing board. I think we're just trying to kind of figure the glide path on the rest of the meetings.
Then other members gonna change.
Generally does change with leadership historically, chair, vice chair. As for Myers, no longer on planning commission, where David's in. So they
Thank you,
seven month jurisdiction, it generally follows that line.
There's gonna be a learning curve then as we get changes.
Yes?
sure, but I think if we do it quarterly and then we present it at the next meeting of the full board, then they have an idea of what's going on. I mean, it's not gonna be like, they come in and they don't know
think so.
anything.
I would certainly recommend reporting back to the commission at the meeting next week. Maybe that, we talked about this, we're talking about these things, but that's all.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan. And we could, I guess I'm just trying to kind of report back, what are those recommendations? So far, I've heard support for these process pieces I put out, and so we could recommend we're gonna do those pieces. I've heard support for continuing this meeting, so we can put that into a staff report. I haven't heard us talk yet, but today is young, about regional plan policy amendments or any changes to PRS. But I think those are things that
That's a,
could come out as
Down the road.
down the road. Yeah.
and I think Candace coming to an RPC meeting would probably be a good idea.
Okay.
I mean, just to have her do a presentation so that everybody understands. That they're a regional partner too as well. I mean,
And who knows if anyone, right, as far as I even know that.
right,
It's pretty new as well. Yeah, it's great to get the word out. So
so if you get that out and at least they can feel part of that process.
So one of the things that I
it could.
did not come prepared to speak on was so they have a number of policies in their plan. And I was not prepared to speak on how those mesh, conflict, or align with City of Reno policies as it pertains to the charter. So,
And of course, they are exempt from regional. Their plan does not have to conform.
Right.
so I'll go back and revise that. Obviously, my primary, I want to help her accomplish her goals, but my primary purpose is to represent the City of Reno. And in that capacity, I have to identify where we can collaborate on this. I of course want to have her, if their policy is to, effectively get a seat at the table, that's something that I would suggest that the governing board take a look at. Is that something that we should be carrying out? Because those are hers, and I'm not sure those align with our goals as a city. So
Do they
I'll
have
follow
a
back up on that.
And the same for the Washington and then
Yeah.
I think they should, just as a guest, as
Fit together.
is.
We don't see any.
No, this is.
It's certainly worthy of conversation, so we can put that on a list of
Wouldn't it
topics.
be,
right?
I mean, they could be like, I mean, I don't know, there's other boards around here that have people that are non-voting members that just sit there and listen.
We have one. We have a school district trustee
That's the one.
liaison.
So can't we just?
Well,
It would be an invitation that she could,
I think she's
Or they
mentioned the word leadership. From what I gathered, we have to go back and check the wording exactly. I got from her, they want to have a say, not just here.
but they can't
want
have it,
to
they're sovereign, they can do whatever they want.
But that's right, but
Doesn't matter.
I think it would be very interesting to see what it would look like at the local level. If a development came, public notice went out, developer comes and says, I want to do this. Public's invited, they come in and they see the project, they separate. They come back at another time with the public's concerns, meeting the developer again.
Mhm.
And then they give that to the developer. They separate again and come back for a third time, where both sides try to get as much as they can. Nobody's going to be happy. It's not going to, nobody's going to get everything, but I think that might take some of this public perception of we're not getting heard, we're not getting due process and all of that out of the picture. If there was something like that at the local level, that may make our job a little bit easier, but it gets them to hear it,
guys.
right? Because that's what the public is saying. That's what I'm hearing. We're
Agreed,
not getting
yeah.
due process. You guys are not hearing this. And
Yeah,
that's from the local
Right,
level.
absolutely,
local level,
absolutely.
Not at our level.
Yeah.
That's an education piece right there for the public. What
Right.
process, I'm gonna just be the attorney, and what process are you doing? Is it your property?
Well, yeah, and that's.
Right, I mean, what process are you doing under the law? People like to, the term due process, which is has constitutional limitations, is so easy for people to spit out their mouth without understanding whether they're even doing it. Their process that they're due is being able to come in and make public comment on it.
Right,
That's
but
the
by then
process
it's
right
kind of
there.
late.
Yeah,
Right. But then it's late. They're not involved and they're like, well, obviously not my backyard, we get all those, but
Right.
if they know what's going on next door on that line, that cooperative, right now, the word is cooperative planning.
No, I understand, I didn't mean to take.
But
it
that's what
past
I'm,
that.
that's, that's
But-
what I'm hearing, that's what they're saying, and, that's kind of what the conversation is about, and that's what she's asking for.
Yeah.
For us to look at that, she wants to be part of that, she wants to know what's going on, so that process may actually help her in the long run.
Well, how does
And maybe notice of a public meeting automatically goes to the tribe.
It should go, well,
I mean,
it
it
should
should
go, it
just-
should go.
I mean, why
Right now that
not?
she wants to be
Why not?
involved. it
We
should.
certainly are sending ours to them.
I mean,
And I
okay.
believe
why
the
shouldn't-
locals do as well.
Why not? I mean, why shouldn't,
I bet they're on everybody's list.
They may,
I would hope
but,
so.
yeah,
Well,
But I mean, and then if it's on everybody's list, then it's up to them to show up.
Absolutely.
It's
Right,
not,
that's
it's-
right,
you know, I mean, you
Yeah.
can't lead, you can't make a horse drink water if you lead it to it. I mean, it's your choice. So you come regardless, or.
and the same thing would go to the public too, if you don't show up,
You
then.
can't voice your opinion.
Exactly. You had an opportunity, here it is, show up. If you can't make it, sorry.
But possibly, I totally agree with all of that. Possibly we could do a better job in our education piece of indicating what is the current process, which, highlighting, making it transparent, which could, number one, get people to participate in it. Number two, maybe we could see some improvement capacity there. And that is one of the recommendations I have in the other mechanisms thing here is to, as a research project for staff at TMRPA, and we've already started doing this to some degree, go out and just, we understand our formal TMRP process because we basically invented it with the plan and we worked with state law. But there are other things happening outside of our purview that we don't want to try to influence in a regulatory way or in a sort of, leadership way per se, but in an informational way, gathering it to say, look at all these different ways that we are communicating. And then therefore, maybe we see gaps where we aren't communicating or aren't coordinating. So I think that's another recommendation we can take back to the full body of the RPC is that we task regional with a little bit of research project here to kind of build an outline of how coordination occurs outside the formal regional process.
I like it.
Okay, good. Check mark on that one. I'll take it. Check. So that leads us back to this idea of back to our regulatory lane and our policies, what we've got in our toolbox. And I think it's come up many times today already, but I'll bring it back up again, this idea of cooperative planning. As imagined in our regional plan right now, we have a policy, we have a map waiting to receive a boundary of cooperative planning, but I think we're missing a couple of things. Number one, we don't know exactly what to do inside that boundary if we establish it. So we need to figure that out. Number two, we need to get consensus and collaboration from our local jurisdiction partners, because they are not going to appreciate us creating a boundary, forcing it upon them. They're going to say, no, thank you. So, but I think in conversations together with them, we should be able to pick out, and along with our research, those gaps, areas where we think maybe we do see a problem that we want to address with this kind of enhanced communication and coordination overlay. So I think that those two things for me are what we need to do. We need to figure out what do we think, and they're kind of combined, right? We're there together. What do we do with these areas once we establish them? And in terms of establishing them, let's make sure that's an incredibly collaborative, consensus-oriented process that's truly addressing a gap in our capacity. So we could put that recommendation together and bring it back to the full body of the RPC for us to do that research and facilitate that. And that could be a great topic kickoff for our regional plan working group.
What's the problem? How are you gonna fix it? What's the problem? Where's the problem?
Yes,
Right.
exactly. And not doing that, you know, I haven't seen great success from this entity when we're top down things. It's very effective though, for Jessica's earlier comments of this plan. We avoided litigation because we took the time, built it, grassroots, ground up, everybody worked together, and then we're memorializing at the top. We're not starting here and pushing down. We're starting here and codifying.
In the composition of the groups, the tenor has changed too. So I've been sitting in C and RPG. And there was a lot of this county versus cities when I first started sitting. And kind of, veiled threats of potential litigation and things of that nature. And then there's been like an evolution. There's been an evolution of camaraderie and professional respect amongst the members of the planning commission and the reality board, which I think is probably derived from some of this, right? I think it's not like those issues, those contentious issues, by any means. It's just the agency and the bodies have done a better job of realizing litigation is going to result in that.
No, it's just gonna cost them money.
Cost money and
That's all it's gonna do.
Poor results.
And
very
the last
poor.
litigation that happened actually was Regional Planning Governing Board sued Washington County in 2017 session because Washington County and County Law Office was gonna try to make a change to one of our regional plan statutes. And everything did it. That was the last, and that was quickly resolved as soon as the lawsuit was filed.
Yeah.
That was the last one. That was the last one. So we've had almost 10 years of infighting between whether it's versus regional governing board or city versus city or city versus county.
So I just want to bring up one final thing, and then I'm happy to move on with our lives. But that is that previously in the motion in January, the concept of creating an energy consumption trigger was put out there. From all the research that we've done, and I think legal will back me up on this, we're not in the energy consumption lane, and it would be inappropriate for us to adopt a threshold that was about consumption. We were already squarely in the generation side for land use, but on the consumption side, that's specifically exempted from our purview. Well,
On that note, if I may,
Yeah.
What created the requirement for us to review generation?
Legislature.
it's directly in the
It's
state law.
directly in the legislative definition of a project. It is going to more than 5.
5 megawatts of generation, 60 kV transmission. If it's a substation, just the word substation. We got to look at it. So that's part of what we're doing right now is we have been coordinating a big effort on energy for two reasons mainly. One is Team RPA. You've got the state mandate. You've got policies. Are they up to snuff? Things have been changing with data centers, with battery storage, with energy renewables, the whole thing. So we're trying to, you can expect to see more information coming forward at the RPC about policy amendments that we want to update. Then there's also the sort of community-wide, this is more on our information gathering side, community-wide apprehension about data centers and what that means for our region. So we've been digging in on that research side. We've done a ton of research. It's all available on our website. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, I think it's pretty well put together at this time. But there's one component missing that we're going to have one final big push, which is really about trying to understand best practices, other regions, and what our state specifically is facing in service of creating a list of potential recommendations for local jurisdictions or other regulators to adopt to help set some rules around data centers. And examples of that, what I keep coming back to are three big things jump out at me every time I think about this. Number one, and this is not a regional or maybe at the rules, but protection for existing ratepayers. There should be some mechanisms, and there are, but how do those get, bolstered? Number two, evaporative cooling using potable water. Not a great fit for our region. So I'm pretty sure we could make an easy rule right there where we don't do that. And number three, the degree to which we can pinpoint where we want to see this kind of development in terms of not just industrial zoning, but this overlay in the industrial areas where we want to see data centers. Or what that does is it helps with the compatibility aspect because what's around it. We set that up. And number two, it helps with the delivery of the infrastructure aspect because now there's surety on what is going to go there.
Yeah, that would help everybody all the way down to planning.
And the degree to which the locals would adopt this stuff, I don't know, but our goal is, because we don't have that control, is to create in conjunction with local staff, for sure, a list of these recommendations, and we're going to reach a wide net. We're going to talk to NV Energy, PUC, the Sierra Club, battery energy storage system people, renewable people, tribal. Oh yeah, and we've actually engaged a woman, Natasha Majewski, she's got a communications company, and we're doing a small engagement strategy thing. So we're going to do a big outreach, talk to everybody. Then we're going to have an event where we ask everyone to come together, the stakeholders, and then we're going to have a public event where we talk to the public about what we found. And then that will lead ultimately to our ability to give recommendations. And then
Potential policy saying, sorry.
exactly, kind of like our schools.
Similar to what we do in
Yeah.
schools.
So that was a long story about not trying to put energy consumption into here, but yeah, okay. But we are still very squarely trying to help guide that discussion regionally. So maybe I'll just sum up because we're getting on half hour over here. I think for the recommendation, the staff report coming to the RPC on March 26th, we want to make sure we report back on what's going on here. I think it can just be one staff report, ideally, where we talk about the fact that we went to the governing board, discuss quickly some of that feedback. We can go into what we have noted are improvements that we've achieved since 2019, that we've been steadily marching, right? I think we can talk about those three process pieces that I mentioned in here. And then we can talk about our ideas for continuing this meeting, looking into cooperative planning, and doing also the research work around how regionally we collaborate outside this process in service of keeping the conversation going. And, bring that back. Did I miss anything?
I second that motion.
Okay, excellent.
Did you want a motion on that?
Yeah, if you want
Okay.
to make
I
that the
second
motion.
that motion, and all those
Okay.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Actually,
Yeah.
we have a motion by chairperson, someone else.
Second by-
I'll say it.
Okay, good, yeah. Just for the record, right? Yeah. Awesome.
A lot of words.
Yeah, thank you.
What Jeremy said.
Jeremy said.
Excellent, excellent.
One other thing I would like to just bring up is the training aspect. We talked about
Yeah.
training. Where's this only 12 hours period come from?
State.
Is there anything we can do
Well, yeah, you
for
can always
more
ask
than
for-
that?
You can ask for more.
That's
Can-
fine.
How do we do that? Because I don't think 12 hours
Is sufficient for
is
the
for
life of
this
a,
board.
I see, yeah. Well,
You don't have to answer today.
Yeah, no, we
It's
can-
just something.
okay, gotcha.
It just kind of has been weighing heavy on me.
I think it's
I
the
didn't
minimum.
realize that that was the case.
It's
And
the same
we've got
between governing
people-
board members and planning commission members. It's
Okay.
required, you can always do more.
Right.
Right, well, I know, but let's say we get a new member in that has never had any planning training, things along that line, maybe. Things along that line,
Yeah.
and having them sit at this level, I think that they should have a little bit more training.
Okay.
Personally, I mean, that's just my personal opinion, I don't know, but, that's how I think that when you get to this level, you should have a little bit of training, at least more than 12 hours.
I think
Personally, but I don't know how that would work, so.
I think that this body could adopt. They have to.
training
say-
regiment.
Then it always be changed in the future, but say that, whatever it is, it's on the thing. That be an agenda topic.
Can you bring that up to the governing board and see if they have an appetite for that? And then if they do, we can discuss it further.
I think from an
I
RPC
think that the
training,
RPC itself can say that we're gonna have to learn training. And,
Okay.
we wanna do the initial 12 hours for each member in that year, for sure.
yes.
But then we can also.
So we could-
create
We could
as a-
preface it as a CEU,
say that we want-
and there's some,
Therefore, after
there's-
another additional 5 hours per member. per
Each year, everybody, because we're anticipating continuing to build new modules for training. Like this year, we were doing to do 6 every other month. We did the one on tiers, and we've got those materials. We want to continue to focus in on how do we apply these policies in the regional plan, to the point from earlier. So we keep building that.
Legal statutory training too.
Perfect.
Like, this is like.
There you go.
It's where we're at.
So there you go.
Let's
I
talk
like
about the
that.
legislative history, this is how we came about.
Love it.
This is what your lands
Here's our
are,
legal
this-
framework
this
that
is
we
your-
are
This is what you
under,
have to work with it.
so everybody knows what our legal framework.
That every year, there's
Yeah.
gonna be at least a 1 hour legal training CE for everybody.
And as styled, we were kind of putting it more on self-service, and we
Yeah.
found that it wasn't working. So that's why we revamped. We're going to make sure we're bringing an item. So every sitting commissioner will see some aspect, even if they've done their 12 hours, they're still going to have to listen to us, and then have the resources available to them.
I know there's a big push down at our county level right now for that.
Okay.
After this
It's
jury
hard stuff,
reflection
guys.
things, and it's like.
I'm going to call them and see what they're doing, so we can. align our
Well,
efforts.
it's just they're just having the conversations. And
Okay.
so it's just starting out, anyways.
Got it.
But from my legal perspective, the chair sets the agenda. So, like, whoever's chair says, yeah, I wanna see over the course of the next year, at least 6 training segments brought up for us.
Okay.
Of a half hour in length,
Sure.
but over 6 meetings dispersed on the year. And I want that to be in addition to what 12 hours are that people are doing. That's some
Okay.
study. I mean, you
Fair,
can
You
absolutely.
got it.
thank you.
You got it.
I'd say no,
Right.
more education so that you are more.
I
equipped to do your
just want to
job.
make sure that we all are crossing our Ts and dotting our
And we
Is.
I
can
agree.
report that back to the governing board, and if they want some more training segments for themselves, that's
We
something.
could do that
they can
too.
Determine on their own.
There you go.
Okay, well, that would probably
I know
squarely
that was
fit.
off topic.
Well, no, it fits in number 8, request for future agenda items.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has reports, so I think you're right on track.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Anything from you?
No,
Nothing?
no, I've said it.
Nigel?
I think I've said enough.
Okay, do we have any public comment?
We don't.
No.
No public comment, written correspondence?
I know just what we received. You guys check that out.
All right, and then it's,
11:35.
11:35.
11:35, all right.